Now we'll conclude the animation of the tail. As we discussed in the last lesson, what we're going to do is give it a circular pattern now. We have it going in a wave if we see it in the side view, but there's no motion in what we see in the top view when there should be. So we're going to have it move left and right, and where we'll place our keys, if we were to then look at the animation, it will look as if it's going in a circular motion. So this is going to be also really cool. Let's go ahead and select our first tail control. And with it selected, we're going to go into the graph editor. And we want to place our keys pretty much in between our poses that we have, or the keys that we already currently have for the Y and the Z. So for our first pose on frame 5, with this control selected, let's go to our move tool and we'll move the tail a little bit to the horse's right. Have our key there. And then as we scrub, we can now move to about frame 9 and have the tail move in the opposite direction now. Great, so now that we have these, we can go to our Translate X and adjust our keys, the tangency of our start and end key, so we'll get a nice flow, some nice fluidity in the Translation X. Then we'll hide our curves and see what this gives us. We'll hit play. And notice we're getting this nice circular pattern. Okay, so we can see when we add those poses of the Translate X in between them, that's going to give us a circular or an arcing motion in our animated object. Okay, so that's really cool. Now we need to go ahead and distribute the information, our key information, to the remainder of our tail to finish it off. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll show our curves again, select our first curve control for the tail, go to the Translate X, copy our keys, then we'll select the remainder of our keys, excluding the very end control. We'll go to our Translate X channels in our graph editor, and with them all selected now, we'll just right click, go to Edit, and Paste. Great, so now that we have this, all we need to do is offset the remainder of them. So, starting from 2, we'll just select our keys, bring it down 1 frame, just as we've done before for the Y and Z. Now we can either deselect this control curve or deselect it in our graph editor, whichever you prefer. Now from here, we can select these keys, bring them down 1 frame, and again deselect our Translate X in the graph editor. Okay. Then hold Shift, middle mouse button, click and drag down again 1 frame to the right. Deselect the Translate X, select the keys for our final curve control that we've animated, hold Shift and middle mouse button, click and drag to the right ones. Excellent. Now notice what we get if we hide our curves and hit play. Now we're getting this nice circular pattern throughout the remainder of the tail. Let's go ahead and do a play blast to see how our tail's looking now. We can check it out in multiple views. Let's try this side view to start out with. Here it is. Great, so now our tail is moving more tail-like, now that we've added that circular pattern to it. So let's go ahead and see how the animation looks in the top view. Here it is, a top view play blast. And great, we're getting nice movement here too, as the tail is moving along throughout the gallop cycle. So excellent. Well, now that we have managed to wrap up the tail, that pretty much finishes up our gallop animation. What we need to do now is, as we discussed before, go through and see if we can make any final tweaks, putting the icing on the cake before we can call this gallop cycle finished. So that's what we're going to spend time doing in the next lesson to finish our horse gallop.